Welcome back. So far this season, North Dakota State has not been tested much in the second half, winning their games by an average of 51-6. But the schedule gets tougher with rivalry games on the horizon in October and November. Brian Shawn sits down with Jeff Culhane and Jeremy Jorgenson for a look at NDSU at the midway point in this week's Bison Breakdown.
All right, thanks so much, Kelly. Here with Jeff Culhane and Jeremy Jorgenson from the Bison Football Radio Network. North Dakota State 5-0, 2-0 in the Valley, getting set to take on Youngstown State this weekend out in Youngstown, Ohio. Guys, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it. Good having you here. The Bison are 5-0. They've done it impressively. They're outscoring opponents like 50-6 on average so far this season. The schedule gets tougher, but to this point, who is your team MVP after what you've seen in the first 5 weeks?
Wow, yeah, there's a lot of candidates, right? You know, I think one of the great things is the emergence of Easton Stick. I think with the way he's been able to really increase his efficiency throwing the football, last year right around 58 to 59% completion percentage. That was, I mean, you're talking about a guy that's 25-2 as a starter. There's not a whole lot to nitpick at if you were going to do something or nitpick at one area. I would have liked to have seen him increase that completion percentage. He's done that, and he's done a very good job. He's one of the top quarterbacks in the country with pass efficiency rating. He's been fantastic, 10 touchdowns to no interceptions, and where's he at right now? 129 straight completions without an INT this season. So there are a ton of candidates. I'm going to be the guy that chooses the easy answer and go with the quarterback, and I'll say Easton Stick to this point, 5 games in.
Jeremy?
Yeah, and just to be different, and I agree, Easton Stick would be my top choice, but just to be different, I think Lance Dunn would probably be mine. You know, you thought it was going to be a total two-headed monster, and it is. You know, Bruce is doing great as well, but how good Lance Dunn has been, a little surprising. He's just been really good. He's thicker this year, I think. Put on a little weight and just dominant as far as getting in the end zone, putting up big numbers, and he's kind of that bell cow right now. Even though Bruce is still getting his carries, dynamic 1-2 punch, but the fact that they have that anchor with Lance Dunn has been a big thing as well as Easton Stick.
Yeah, and hard to believe Lance Dunn, 12 touchdowns already through 5 weeks. That's an unbelievable number, and that's 13 if you count the touchdown reception he had as well. You have to say the schedule is a little bit softer in the first half. Nothing you can really do about that. You got to play who you got to play in your schedule. Second half of the season, is this the most difficult game, or do you think it really doesn't end? It's going to be a challenge no matter who you play now the rest of the year, because all these teams they play now are playing for something after what they've been able to do so far.
Well, there's no doubt it's the most difficult game to this point, right? I mean, that's not even a discussion. That's a good question. I just don't think it ends. I mean, the Sagarin rankings came out, and you know all about those. You follow that very closely. The last 6 games of the regular season here this year, NDSU is going to face 6 of the top 9 teams in the Sagarin rankings here to wrap up the season. I mean, that is a gauntlet if you've ever heard of gauntlets in the Missouri Valley Football Conference. It seems like we go through this each and every season. But this year, it seems like there's a little bit more to the Valley for whatever reason. Western Illinois has really emerged. Look what USD has done. I mean, who would have said that USD would be a 5-0 football team before this season started? So it's definitely the toughest game to this point. I'm not sure what the toughest game is going to be over the next 6 weeks. It's going to be fun to watch.
Well, I think with the home winning streak, this is a very tough game. Obviously, Youngstown's really good at home. 11 straight. The last team to win there was NDSU. They care about football in Youngstown, which I think adds an interesting element to this game. Every time we go to Youngstown, they care there, and that's not the case all over the Valley. So this place, they take it seriously, and it makes it a very tough environment. There's lots of tough games coming, but yeah, I think you could make an argument that this is the toughest game left.
Yeah, it's hard to say for sure until we know how the rest of the Valley plays out, but we've already seen some surprises along the way, no question. Surprised by anything from North Dakota State? Has anything stood out to you saying, wow, this is either better or worse, or anything that has jumped out to you through the first 5 weeks?
You know, I think the emergence of a player like Derek Tuska at defensive end, after the injury to Greg Menard, I think we all felt like early in the season that this defense has gone through this before over the last 5 or 6 years. They've suffered some serious injuries. Guys have stepped up, that next man up mentality. And I was wondering who is going to be that next guy up at defensive end. We thought Caleb Butler, Stanley Jones. Here's Derek Tuska, a Warner, South Dakota native who has come on and has really emerged as one of the top speed rush guys off the edge for this Code Green defense. So surprises, not a ton. Derek Tuska, I think, is one of those guys that has really emerged, and you see him now as a guy working with the #1 defense, a defensive end this year.
Yeah, for me, it's Jalen Wimbush. I thought one of the big questions coming in was the second corner opposite Jalen Allison. And Jalen Wimbush has really started to play really well over the last couple of weeks. He's playing with a purpose. He's playing with a lot of contact. He's hitting hard. Seems like he's a little more comfortable. And I think that is a huge development on the defense to get that second corner going opposite of Jalen Allison. I thought it was the one area on defense that maybe was a question mark. I don't think it is anymore.
I know North Dakota State, too, they haven't really been challenged in a fourth quarter yet. I mean, they've had games put away by the time they get into the final 15 minutes. Is that an advantage or a disadvantage here moving into this last half of the schedule?
Well, I mean, I think these guys are so battle-tested. I don't think it matters. I mean, so many close games, so many big games that the upperclassmen have played in, the leadership on this football team, the maturity on this football team, is second to none. You don't see that in many other college football programs, especially at this level. So even though this team hasn't been tested in a fourth quarter yet, these guys have so much experience to draw back upon that I don't think that's going to matter coming into a game like this one in Youngstown Saturday night.
I think it would have made a difference if they had been playing down to their competition, but they haven't been doing that. They've been so sharp in every game, it doesn't really matter who they've been playing. And we've learned over the last 6+ years that nobody rises to the occasion in a big game better than NDSU, battle-tested like Jeff said. And the fact that they haven't played down to their competition in these first 5 games, I think, shows how locked in they are.
Yeah, I think so too. And it's going to be fun to see how this one unfolds because you have two teams that want to run the football. Guys, thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. And have a good trip out to Youngstown, Stanbaugh Stadium, the Igloo, the Ice Palace, whatever you want to call it.
It's going to be warm.
Yeah.
It'll be good.
Real warm.
We'll take it in October.
79 in October in Youngstown.
You'll
Holy
take that.
smokes.
That's better than 40 degrees on top of the
That's
roof
right.
in November. I can tell you that from experience. Guys, thanks so much. We appreciate it. Kelly, throw it back to you.
All right, great stuff. Thanks, guys. This is the 12th meeting all-time between the Penguins and Bison, and NDSU has won the last 5 of those meetings. When we come back, we spend some time in the sin bin at the Ralph with Trevor Olson, and later a West Fargo throwdown in head-to-head. This is Midco Sports Tonight.
Midco Sports Tonight, presented by Avera Orthopedics.